Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
If they're not having a go with a bird, they're having a row with a wanker.
Hello and welcome to Full Kit Wankers. This is our first video episode. We've been doing this as a podcast for a couple months now, but we decided during these times where we have a ridiculous amount of free time that we're going to turn it into a video concept as well. I'm Cohen Jenkins alongside my fellow Full Kit Wankers, Eric Allen and Drew Parada.
Hey.
So our stated goal for this is to answer the dumbest questions in sports, and we've done some of that already. Eric, this week you have a dumb question for us?
Yes, I do. So my dumb question for the week is, what do you think the worst player branding or team branding in sports is? Like the worst trademarked or patented brand name. What do you think it is, guys?
One thing I really hate is Kevin Durant. He turned down his nickname of the Slim Reaper because he thought it was like too devilish and not believing in God. So he wanted his nickname to be the Servant because he's the servant of the Lord.
Ew, that's no.
Terrible.
Terrible. That
nickname.
takes him out of my top 5 for all time, I would say.
Oh, well, I mean, Tom Brady and the new Tampa Bay deal is quite the catastrophe right now, but
yes, that was mine as well. I saw the tweet that he had patented 2 names, and the first one I saw was Tampa Brady, which is like, okay, like he's changing his life, he's moving to Tampa Bay, blah blah blah. That uses his name, little creative. But then I see Tampa Bay, and just I don't know what that means. I don't know what's a Tampa. That's gross. Like, I don't want to go to the Bay if there's Tampas in it. Ew. It's just disgusting.
I don't know if Tom Brady really fits the Tampa Bay vibe.
Yeah, I agree with that
opinion.
too. Like, it's just not a like. I'm guessing he just wants to like retire there after one season, you know, and be like, just fuck around with.
Is he an 80-year-old Jewish man?
He's like a old money white New England like Upper East Coast elite type, and I mean, you know, Tampa Bay, that's like...
I need to move from Martha's Vineyard down to Florida.
That's like trash.
He's an old person. He's probably going a little senile. Who knows? He thought Tampa Bay was worth getting a patent on. Like, he's clearly not all there anymore.
And then Tampa Bay has this whole, like, jersey redesign, too, to kind of come in with this new era of both Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, because they're basically just going to remake their entire team for the Bois. The problem I have with the uniforms is they don't... Like, I saw a bunch of people like, oh, I love the new Tampa Bay uniforms. Oh, my God, what a... I look at them, like, I couldn't tell you the difference. They just look like generic-ass uniforms. Like...
I do kind of like Tampa Bay's. I think their logo is great.
Okay,
I think
I agree.
Too, yeah.
Memories.
Even the mascot, like Buccaneers, like that's a cool team. I like that. But the uniforms are just okay. We have a red football jersey, we have a black football jersey, and we have a white football jersey. Like, whoa, revolutionary. It's not.
I personally think jerseys is an art form that needs to be way more creative, and that's why I love the crazy jerseys.
Yeah,
you see in sports.
Definitely.
Well, I think the NBA has done a good job of that recently, but and college football has always kind of, well, I mean, mostly like the bigger name schools have for the most part. Like
Let's
Oregon, teams
how
like
about
that,
we just
but...
run through some of our like just historical or current just like jerseys we like or dislike. Maybe we can just talk about that for a bit.
Let's look at some jerseys. We're gonna decide whether they're hot or whether they're not.
There we go.
Just plain and simple gut reactions.
Sure.
Let's see. What are some jerseys that you guys have found to be kind of crazy in the past?
So one that I've always had a love-hate relationship with is the Oregon Ducks. it kind of goes for all their sports just because they have such an affiliation with Nike. They always have the cutting edge, the new crazy color schemes. They're famous for those kind of highlighters, and then like they have I think they were the first team that had like the O on the gloves, you know?
The gloves.
Like just they've always had they have a lot of innovations, and some are nice, some are not. I would say I like most of them. There's a weird kind of pale yellow one though. That I don't know if it was intermediary to the nice like highlighter green. Because I like the highlighter green. It's bright. It catches the eye. It's like, oh, wow, what team is that? It's Oregon. But this was just like they were like halfway to that concept. They're like, what if we did like a half fluorescent yellow? And it's just kind of gross.
It is a pretty gross color. I have great memories of watching LaMichael James and the Ducks just storming down the field in those uniforms, just saying, fuck you. We got this Nike money. We got the best athletes on the field. We're going to put up 60 on you every game. But I can admit those pale ones are not my favorite.
Yeah, they. I think the issue I have with him is it just doesn't seem Oregon. Oregon is like bright yellow, bright green. And this was just like neither of their colors. It didn't really feel like their team. So I'm going to say not hot for those.
That's fair.
Yeah. For me, jerseys that I thought were really cool, but you guys might think different, is I remember from NBA Live like '09 or something, the Washington Wizards had these gold jerseys that were filthy. I love them. And Gilbert Arenas was like peak Gilbert Arenas back then. And it was Agent Zero and those
Zero.
I mean, I will say they look like, honestly, like now looking at them, looking back, they look like cheap AAU jerseys. But back then I was like, wow, those are sick.
I think they're kind of cool. One of my problems with them is the drop shadow on the text there is straight up busted. That's gross. That's gross looking.
While we're talking about the text, I just don't like the text at all. Which I get. It's just a different era where different texts.
It looks like
popular.
A cereal brand. It looks like Kellogg's cereal.
Like it could say Wheaties right there, not.
It's Wizards O's. It's Wizards O's.
Yeah.
If we're looking at number 0. Cheerios,
and
but
then
gross.
Another problem I have is the shorts in combination with it. It's like this gold, and then it just transitions to black shorts.
Yeah.
To me, that's
pretty gross.
That's what makes it look like an AA uniform is that they just gave the team the jerseys and they just told them, "Hey, wear black shorts to match for next week's game."
If the whole kit was the gold, I'd definitely classify it as hot. Like gold shirt, gold shorts. That's some gold member shit. I'd support it.
One team that definitely didn't shirk from the craziness was one I found, and it is the mid-'90s Mexico national team, sort of piñata jerseys.
Oh my.
These are wild. This is insane. Like, who designed this? Who thought of this? And then also, like, look at those sleeves. If you get rained on, that adds an extra 15 pounds.
They do seem really
weight.
Baggy, just in general.
Bunch of abuelas stitched those up. That's like...
It's so baggy, and those rectangles are such a sharp contrast that it honestly looks like there's stuff dangling from the jersey. Like, it looks like the diamonds were all, like, taped on there, and they're just kind of like...
It's hard to tell where the jersey ends and the shorts start. It just is so blended. Like,
it's actually
it's
a
just
romper
jumper.
Surprise.
Yeah.
It's a romper. Wow, those are incredible.
Probably one of the craziest ones ever was the Chicago White Sox in 1976. They pop out these baseball jerseys that include shorts.
No way.
Wow.
So, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
They have these long stockings with the black stripes, and then their knees are completely bare, and they got these tight navy shorts on. And then the collar, the fake collar, is like a different color too, so that's popping out.
Yeah, so it is a fake collar. Yeah, okay. I kind of thought it was a real
it's a
collar,
fake
and I was
collar?
just like, I don't know about
Dude.
that collar, boys.
This guy pegs you. Are you charging the mount?
No. Do you see
I'm
those
telling him-
quads? Like, he can punch.
This is Chet Lemon.
I'm telling
Chet
him
Lemon,
sorry, man. I'm telling him sorry.
Yeah. He's a big boy. Great mustache hair combo.
I do agree on the
Dude.
mustache. I like the sock spirit of they want to show off the White Sox because that's their team.
Their
But,
hats
like,
are awesome too.
Maybe
That's
allow
such a
your
cool
players
logo.
to slide and not get jacked up. Maybe.
I agree, Drew, that the hats are pretty
Those
cool.
are filth, yeah.
They just say socks, yeah. That's
And that style of cap that was kind of a thing in the 70s, I really like that.
I always like retro hats better. They just have a different shape usually in their aesthetic.
Shifting to the 90s, these are some, aquamarine teal Pistons jerseys with this wild Pistons logo.
Okay,
with the flaming horse on it.
these are hot in my opinion. I really like the flaming horse. Like, not just for the
Dude.
fire pun, but I think it's a good jersey.
That's an awful combination of colors right there.
The colors are horrendous.
It works. At least
And I do like the text with the actual Pistons with the exhaust coming out the end. I think that's pretty cool.
I really like the whole text horse. I really like where the numbers are on the jersey. I think if the red wasn't in the border, I would like it 100%, but I'd say I'm a 90% hot right now.
I found 3 Retros 30s NFL jerseys. First off, we have the Steelers one, which is gross. It is like the flight of the bumblebee with the yellow and black stripes across it.
That's
disgusting.
As a fan of bumblebees, I'm gonna have to say this is hot.
You're a fan of bumblebees?
I'm a huge supporter of Save the Bees. Essential. Gotta save the
All right.
bees.
All right, Mr. Fu Manchu.
And then there's these Eagles retros. Here picture Donovan McNabb and a rather sweaty Donovan McNabb.
That is
I'll add as
sweaty.
well.
Jesus. Ew.
Bro, that looks like my parochial league school when my flag football team would.
I really like the helmet. I really like the helmet, actually, but not the jersey.
Or the color. It's like they tried to be the Chargers, but they didn't quite hit it.
Like, if the modern Chargers had that helmet, like, I'd be game.
Yeah, the helmets are awesome for sure.
But that yellow and blue is just...
It's the yellow that doesn't do it. Also, if you notice, the yellow on the helmet does not match the yellow on the jersey.
Number one way to fuck up a uniform is have the colors not match.
And then the Packers had a kind of similar concept. They tried it out a few years later. Just with a darker blue and some disgusting off gold shorts.
It's the off-gold shorts.
God, I
that
thought those
ruin
were
it.
just like a white, but I see the gold now.
It looks like he's wearing khakis, honestly.
Yeah. They're just sport khakis.
These, even as a diehard Packers fan, I just could not abide by these at all.
I would like this uniform if it was like the modern green and yellow, though, I think. With just like some normal like white shorts or something, or like yellow or green, just something to match. I like the big number. I like the simplicity.
Yellow shorts would work with that. The shoulders yellow and the shorts yellow. I think
like
that
it'd
would
be
Yeah, I think that, yeah.
could be nice.
Shifting back into more modern times, this is the Colorado Rockies jersey. They trotted out in 1999. A lot of people have derided this jersey and said it's one of the ugliest jerseys of all time.
Really?
I like it. I like it a lot.
Oh, I hate it. It's so ugly.
I'm not a huge fan, but I don't hate it. I think it's a fine jersey. I don't see why this would be one of the worst of all time. Like,
You see it in lists like that a lot, but I don't know. I like it. I like things that are a little different, and I think it really works.
yeah, it's got the mountain. I like that the baseball's a different blue from everything else. I'm a fan.
You like that?
Oh, yeah.
For me,
It
It
catches
doesn't
the
do
eye.
it.
You're like, what sport am I watching? Oh, baseball.
I actually own one of the worst jerseys ever made. I'll show you guys. One sec. I got this as a gag gift for Christmas one year. It's like one of the worst. The Padres always do a camo jersey because they're like it's like a Navy town here in San Diego. And this is a Craig Kimbrell jersey who was here for maybe a season, maybe a half season. I don't know. It
I
wasn't
feel
long.
like a half season.
Yeah, so someone found this for $5 and got it for me as a joke.
That is gross.
It's atrocious. Like, it's some of the ugliest jerseys I've ever seen are like these Padre camo ones.
Camo
years they
jerseys
hit
are
it-
never a good idea.
Some years they hit it right, but like years like this, it literally looks like they just rubbed it in dirt and threw it together. Do you guys like those light blue, hot pink Miami Heat jerseys?
Oh, I love those.
Not really.
Yeah.
I like the colorway a lot. It's one of my favorite colorways. I don't like it on the jerseys though. It's too abrasive. Like, it just hurts my eyes to look at Jimmy Butler running around dressed like that for an hour or two.
Speaking of the Miami Heat, Eric, I think you got some beef. I think there's some beef.
Oh, there's big beef. There's big beef. So it happened a little bit ago, but Kendrick Nunn tweets out, "The most value should be in the wins, and our team has been holding it down. We're a playoff team, so go ahead and give that Rookie of the Year to Kendrick Nunn." Number one, don't talk about yourself in the third person. What are you doing? Number two, no, that doesn't count. You have 2 All-Stars. Like, what? You have more wins, so you deserve Rookie of the Year because Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo have been carrying you?
Preface this, John Morant's probably the favorite for the Rookie of the Year
He's been
this year.
I'd say he's been locked in as Rookie of the Year since like October.
I wouldn't go that far back, but I think
I'd say that's when he
Zion-
started
Zion-
making his case.
I'm just saying Zion was making a great case like in this first like 2 or 3 weeks, and like knowing like the writers, like you could have seen something like that, but anyone else was completely out of the argument at that point.
Yeah.
Zion played in 12 games. But
That's what I'm saying. It's like, but in those 12 games, like I remember seeing all the writers like, oh, is it time to like put Zion in the conversation and all this? And it's like I mean, obviously, like no.
Let me make a little devil's advocate argument here in that Kendrick Nunn had similar scoring on similar efficiency as John Morant. I'm just making his arguments clear and known. His team was significantly better. The Heat were 41-24 when the season ended, and the Grizz were 32-33. And Eric, as you have stated before, narrative should be a big part of this.
Yes, I
You
agree.
at one point campaigned that Brandon Clark was a potential for the Rookie of the Year.
He's Rookie of the
Kendrick
Year.
Nunn was not the Kendrick Nunn was not the number 2 pick in the draft this year. Kendrick Nunn was undrafted this year. He came out of nowhere and became a major force on a playoff-bound team.
Okay,
So-
real quick.
There's some points.
Here's my counterpoints. The Grizzlies are a playoff team. They were the 8th seed when the season ended, and they had one of the hardest schedules for the rest of the season projected. So it'd be very possible that they would slip out of the playoff race, but they were the 8th seed. They were a playoff capable team, I would say. The Grizzlies have no one, essentially. I think that's the reason that Ja deserves it more. Is 2 of the top 3 or 4 players on the Grizz were their 2 draft picks this year. Like, it is a ridiculously young team, and what you need when you have an unexperienced and unskilled team is a high-quality point guard. And Ja Morant was able to provide that to such a degree that they were the first team to destroy their over-under on the season. They beat it in, like, December. They won more games than projected. Like, they were supposed to be the bottom of the barrel pile of garbage. And
I agree.
they're the
I
8th
ultimately
seed.
agree that John Morant should win the Rookie of the Year, and he almost certainly will at this point. In 2016, Kendrick Nunn, in a dispute with a friend who reportedly owed him $100, choked and poured water on a woman who was another college student. At the time, he was at Illinois. This incident caused him to transfer to the University of Oakland, which is in Michigan for some reason, where he led the nation in scoring his senior year and then was drafted into the NBA. I do not understand. I feel like these kind of guys don't need to be given these NBA chances like this.
I very much agree. I think that something that could help improve sports culture is kind of cracking down on, like, I guess violence among women, violence against women is one of the bigger ones you see in sports generally, whether it's like CTE related or just they are a piece of shit. I just think it's something that executives are really trying to crack down on in our society, and I think it's a good thing. I just don't think you should deserve to be a role model for kids and famous and making millions of dollars if you have a criminal past or do something criminal. Like that's bad.
But even like, I think a good example of this though is like Nick Saban. There's a great interview of him, and he says, I'm going to summarize, like, it was very well put, and he's very well spoken. I'm not going to summarize this as best as he did.
You don't have the southern charm of Nick Saban.
I do not. He can either cut these kids like that make these mistakes, and he's like, where do they go? Where do they go? Back to the streets. Now they feel like the world hates them. Everyone's against them. They've been betrayed. He's like, all for making a mistake. And, you know, like, sometimes is it really bad? He's like, yeah, but he's like, who's going to like solve that? Like, if we give them structure, if we give them good leadership, like, those kids are going to be a lot better off and a lot more productive people in society than if we just give up on them after that one fatal mistake. And I mean, you can apply that though to a lot of different situations, like with people who do that and aren't NBA stars. Like maybe like they're probably a lot more likely to do that again, unless like if society just gives up on them just after that. Like, no, you don't get a second chance.
And I agree with that.
Need those.
We deserve second chances in our society, but here's the difference. Kendrick Nunn is not now an advocate for preventing violence against women. He is not spoken on that topic. He has basically just dismissed that from his past and saying it was a different me, like I'm a new person now. On the other hand, you have a guy like Michael Vick who made the terrible mistakes he did with the dog stuff and then has gone on to be like an advocate. He's donated millions of dollars towards charities and like speaks at events and is like, here's how you cannot make the mistakes that I did. He did those kinds of things. I don't see Kendrick Nunn doing those kinds of things. And I would like to see that.
The other difference I like is, so Saban's talking about college sports. College sports, I think, yes, definitely second chances. Like if your player makes a mistake, just help them learn, help them grow from it. That's different from professional though. Because if you're in professional sports, you are a role model to at least a few kids. You're making a lot of money and you don't really have to contribute anything to society. I think in college sports, yeah, give them a second chance, help them figure it out, help them finish out, get their degree. But then if executives of professional sport leagues don't think that they belong in the professional sport, I think that's completely legitimate because you don't want to bring an abuser into your company, and they got their college degree from being helped via that structure in college, so they don't have to be a sports star.
On maybe a happier note than talking about domestic violence and second chances in our criminal justice system and sports, next up we're going to move to a fun little game and again some dumb questions for you guys to answer. So throughout this podcast series, I've been coming up with quick games for Drew and Eric to play basically against me in order to win drinks off of me. So far they have won 2 drinks off of me in our last 2 games, and they have a third chance again. So this week, we're going to be playing Flickname or Nickname. We have played this previously where it can be a nickname of an athlete, it can be a Hollywood movie, or it can be both, and they have to choose which one of those 3 things it is. Last time we did this with movies and nicknames on baseballreference.com. This week, we are doing it with names on basketballreference.com.
Okay.
First up, Cornbread.
Basketball player. What do you think, Eric? I think basketball player.
I think just basketball, yeah.
I think just basketball.
Incorrect.
No!
Cornbread is the nickname for Cedric Maxwell, who is a basketball player on the Larry Bird Celtics teams. But the reason he got that nickname is it was the name of a blaxploitation film about a murdered basketball player who was played by Jamal Wilkes, and that came out in the 70s. So it was both. All right, next up. Big Smooth.
That's got to be at least a basketball.
I think it is, but I feel like Cohen tries to get tricky sometimes. I think both. What do you think?
I'd
Or do
say
you think just
both.
basketball?
I'd say both.
Or-
Yeah.
okay, let's go both.
Incorrect. Big Smooth was the nickname of Sam Perkins, the lefty center on the Lakers and the Sonics in the 80s and 90s.
Brutal.
So just to make sure, you guys do have to get 5 correct if you want to win this game.
Yeah,
We're now
yeah.
0 for 2 to start out. And
all
we're
right,
going
all
out
right,
of 10.
Cohen. All right.
All right. Next up, Rumble.
I'm
Movie for
pretty
sure?
sure that's a movie. Pretty sure that's a movie. I don't know
I'm
about
down to just go
basketball.
movie here. I'm gonna just go movie.
Okay, yeah, just movie.
Just movie.
Just movie, correct.
Let's
It
go.
is. Rumble is a 2021 kids movies about monster wrestling. It's like in the future, genetically mutated monsters wrestle each other for entertainment.
I mean, that doesn't sound like
Terry
a bad
Cr-
time.
Terry Crews and Jimmy Tatro are voice actors.
Wow.
All right, next up, The X-Man.
This is one of your weaseling ones, isn't it?
Okay. Would anyone have the rights to get X-Man as like a movie title or something with X-Men? I mean, I don't know how that all works, but
I don't know how that works either. I'm not a lawyer.
I feel like the X-Man, like there had to be some like
I
like
could see it'll be like a B movie where they're just trying to trick people into thinking it's an X-Men movie, but it's about
No,
one dude.
I think for sure basketball name though. The X-Man, that's a basketball name.
Basketball or
Like some-
both. You pick.
At SDSU, we had a point guard like a couple years back, Xavier Thames, and he was like the X.
Final choice?
I'll go just basketball player.
Correct. Xavier McDaniel.
Good work, Drew. Thanks
He
for
was
carrying.
Yeah, no problem.
He was a good scorer for the Seattle Supersonics in the late 80s. And it was not a movie because I tried to trick you. All right, next up,
We're not that
The
stupid.
Boston Strangler.
The
The Boston Strangler.
I feel like that was a movie. at some
I feel
point.
like it's both.
Okay, I'm down. We'll go
Both.
both.
Correct.
Yes.
Andrew Toney.
Yes.
Andrew
We're hot.
Toney was a 76ers player who was known for destroying the Celtics in games, being particularly good against the Boston Celtics. And then there was also a 1968 movie starring Tony Curtis and Henry Fonda.
Wasn't there like a
Didn't
real
think
Boston Strangler too? Like a serial killer?
Yeah, but that's not a movie or a basketball player, but I believe so.
counts.
All right, next up, Bull. B-U-L-L, Bull.
Just movie.
Just movie? I'm
That's
down.
my first intuition.
I'm
All right.
down.
Just movie.
Correct, it is just a movie.
Let's
You're now 4 out of
go!
6. Here's the description of this movie on which came out in 2019 on IMDb. In a near-abandoned subdivision west of Houston, a wayward teen runs headlong into her equally willful and unforgiving neighbor, an aging bullfighter who's seen his best days in the arena, and it's a collision that will change them both.
Cohen tried to talk smack and we hit 4 straight, Eric. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, four in a row is tough on me.
this
An
was-
interesting fact about Bull.
Yeah.
The bullfighter in that movie is Rob Morgan, who's an actor. He also stars in a TV show called Bull, which just came out.
He's pretty
That's more of like a
uncreative.
law. That one's like a law procedural. It's very different, but they're both named the same thing. I don't know how he got typecast into that. All right, you're 4 out of 6. Next up, The Blue Arrow.
Well, I know the Green Arrow is a DC character,
Yeah.
so
It's a TV show. Blue Arrow. I'm saying just basketball.
okay, I'm with that, Eric.
Just basketball.
Correct.
Oh,
Correct. The Blue Arrow is the nickname of Jamal Murray, Nuggets point guard.
Call us the Boise Strangler because we're messing you up.
we're on fire right now, Eric.
You are 5 out of 7. Next up, Popeye.
That is a basketball name for sure.
There's definitely been
I
a
can't-
Popeye movie too, so I'd say both.
Okay, both. We'll go both.
Correct.
Let's go.
Ronald Popeye Jones played for the Nuggets,
Ronald
and his
Jones.
son is actually a hockey player named Seth Jones.
Wow.
And then
Interesting.
Robin Williams in 1980 actually starred in a Popeye movie,
Wow.
which I did not know. All right, next up, Z-Storm.
I don't like that as a nickname, but I could see it being somebody's shitty nickname.
I'm gonna go with you here, Eric.
What, you want me to just guess? I don't...
Yep. I think just nickname.
You think just nickname?
I just think it's a bad, boring
just nickname.
nickname.
Just nickname.
Just nickname.
Incorrect. Sea Storm is a 2014 action movie set in Hong Kong.
That's not a good movie. I can almost guarantee it.
Oh, it's probably just atrocious. All right, you guys are 6 out of 9.
Cohen didn't even give a background on that one, so that's how you know it's there's not even a story there.
It was in Chinese, so I don't know what the background is.
Fair.
All right. Big Ben is your last one. Big Ben.
I feel like just a movie.
Is there like a movie about Big Ben? Not the guy, but the clock.
I just don't think that's that just doesn't seem like a good basketball nickname, you know? Like, I don't know any famous centers.
What do you mean? Big Ben?
Name
like
a center named Ben.
Maybe? I don't know. Ben Wallace, there's one.
Okay, maybe.
Benjamin, I don't know. There's got
Benjamin
a couple
Button.
of Bens.
You picked. I don't know. We already won.
I feel like Big Ben is just bait. It's just bait, though. So let's go with
just
just
bait.
movie.
Just movie.
Yeah.
Just a movie. Incorrect.
No.
You guys had Ben Wallace's nickname was Big Ben.
No way! No way, dude. Come on.
I'm upset.
It was also a 1949 TV movie starring Gene Kent and David Davies. But that's tough that you guys had Big
God.
Ben and you didn't.
I literally
you
said
didn't
Ben
follow
Wallace,
through.
dude.
I can't think of a
That's
center
terrible.
named Ben. How about Ben Wallace? Whatever.
6 out of 10 though. You guys still won. Beat me 3 times in a row. I need to up my game.
Eric and I looks like we won again, and that is freaking awesome. I actually want to change pace real quick. Have you guys ever had a trade that like your team completely messed up, or like really changed the game for like the direction of your team's, like your franchise's position, where you're headed? For me, the Padres have had quite a few mistakes over the years, so it's been, I'm sure as you guys know, we're like the dumpster truck of the NL West, so I got quite a few stories. Cohen, you want to start us off here on?
Yeah, I mean, the Blazers have made so many various mistakes. Obviously, their most notable ones being missed draft picks with Greg Oden over Durant and Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan. But we also have had some good trades thrown in there. One was in 2012, we had Gerald Wallace. He was a solid small forward, putting up like 14 a game, 7 rebounds, good hustle player. But the team was starting to tank, and we decided to trade him away. We traded him to the New Jersey Nets, who became the Brooklyn Nets like a year later. And they gave us the number 6 pick in the NBA draft, which already is not a great trade for them. You're trading for a 29-year-old like journeyman player, and you're giving them the number 6 pick in the draft. Not what you want.
Sounds like
But what makes it worse... What makes it worse was that player became Damian Lillard.
Wow.
So you got a few seasons of a pretty bad rotation. Well, he was a good rotation player, but Gerald Wallace's best full season after that trade, he put up 7.5 points per game, 4 rebounds, and like 3 assists. That was his best season for the Nets. Damian Lillard this last season averaged 28.9 points, 4.6 rebounds, and almost 8 assists a game.
Dame Dollar.
As well as being a
Dollar.
5-time All-Star and 4-time All-NBA player, resuscitating the Blazers franchise, becoming a rap icon, hitting 2 playoff series-ending buzzer-beating 3-pointers. I'll take that trade all day long.
I do have a counter to when these Zers royally messed up a trade, though.
When was that?
So it was in 1976. The Trailblazers traded Moses Malone for...
Don't like where this is going.
They traded Moses Malone for Rick Roby. Rick Roby was... Well, it was actually Moses Malone for a first-round draft pick. But then that first-round draft pick was used to draft Rick Roby. But so Moses Malone, 13-time All-Star, 9th all-time in points, future Hall of Fame, 3-time MVP. One of the all-time greats, like a fantastic player.
I will defend this trade a little bit because at the time the Blazers had Bill Walton, who was the best center in the NBA, and led them to a title. He led them to a title a year after this.
Yes.
Wow. So their thoughts was they don't need Moses Malone, who is an out-and-out center, and that they really didn't. But what they couldn't predict was that Bill Walton had, crippling injuries coming down the line.
Yeah.
And
it's unfortunate for sure. Because if he could have trained Moses Malone, like, he could have been even better. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that would have been a great duo. Another thing that makes this trade so bad. Yeah.
What did they get in return for Moses Malone? What was it?
They got a first-round draft pick, and they used it to draft Rick Roby.
They drafted a white guy power forward. Like, this didn't go well for them.
He wasn't a good contributor? Okay.
No.
Yeah.
The thing that makes this even worse is the Braves. So the Buffalo Braves is who they were trading with, and they later turned into the Clippers that we have today. And so they turn right around with Moses Malone and trade him and get 2 first-round draft picks. So, like,
that's tough.
The Zers just got absolutely... They didn't value Malone at all. They
sold real low.
Yeah, like, they just really didn't do well with that trade. Because, like, if they'd gotten 2 first rounds, I think that would be much more worthwhile. Like, we don't need a center. We can get 2 first rounds. That's a good trade, in my opinion, even though he
I'll tell you why the Braves made that trade is because they had their own center, who was Bob McAdoo, who was the reigning NBA MVP. So they didn't really need a high rebounding center either. But at least they got a little bit more value than the Blazers did there.
Yeah, they essentially just manipulated the Blazers and said, "Oh, we'll give you a 1 pick," but they probably already had the 2 pick trade lined up with the Rockets. Like, to be honest, like, that's a smart move from their standpoint.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Shifting to a different sport that impacted me negatively was the Brewers, who have never won a World Series and are the bane of my existence in that sense sometimes. But
I feel that.
In 2000, they've gotten so close a couple times. I really thought they had a run put together in 2018. But in 2006, the Brewers had Carlos Lee, who was a really good, solid power slugger. He was putting up good numbers. But he's set to be a free agent, and the Brewers are cheap as fuck and didn't want to pay him in free agency. So they decided to trade him to the Rangers for semi-promising right fielder Kevin Mench, who is built like a brick shithouse. The reason they traded for him, he's got really hot in April that year. He hit home runs in 7 straight games.
Wow.
And so people are like, oh, who is this guy? Like, he's going to be really amazing. He was not. The Brewers traded Carlos Lee and prospect at the time, Nelson Cruz, to the Rangers for Kevin Mench, Francisco Cordero, Lance Thnks, and Julian Cordero. Now, Nelson Cruz became a pretty damn good player in his own right, so that was tough. Francisco Cordero did actually put up 1 All-Star season in Milwaukee before leaving in free agency. Kevin Mench didn't do shit. Lance Thnks didn't do shit. Julian Cordero didn't do shit.
Dude, selling Nelson Cruz is a pretty... Dude, that guy's like a stud. He's had a phenomenal career.
I mean, he did take steroids, so there's that. But
who cares?
Here's
Stud.
If you combine all the stats of Cruz and Lee after that trade, they combined to put up 612 homers, 1,893 RBIs, 50 wins above replacement, 9 All-Star games, and 4 Silver Sluggers.
Yeah, Nelson Cruz is a 40-WAR player, which is pretty damn impressive. It's not a long
He's
list.
a fantastic player.
Yeah.
And
he's also hit 400 bombs.
Imagine those 2 guys, combine that with Ryan Braun and Prince Fielder, who came the next year. That's a franchise right there.
Yeah, wow.
That's a franchise.
What could have been, Cohen? What could have been? All right, well, sticking to baseball, I guess we'll move on to my trades that... Like, this one is I'll talk about the positive one first, because it's pretty awesome. I think about, like, 3 years ago, I didn't write down the exact date, the the Padres traded James Shields, who was on a 4-year, $75 million. Like, the Padres actually signed someone. Like, this was the first time they signed someone for, like, more than $50 million, I think. And which is crazy. And it was probably, like, 2015. And it was supposed to be, like, he was going to, like, anchor our franchise, like, with the same old story. Well, the young talent comes up. Young talent doesn't pan out. James Shields pitches very average. Same old Padres story. Anyway, he still had some decent value because he was known for being a huge innings eater. Like, he was
He's a good pitcher. He's great with the Rays.
Yeah, like, he had a really good career before the Padres, which is why he was so valuable and why they paid the money to, pick him up. And so I think he had two and a half years left on his contract, about 2.5 years. And the Padres traded him, or the White Sox needed a pitcher to get, like, help support, like, a playoff run. And they traded Eric Johnson and Fernando Tatis Jr. for James Shields. And the funny part is Eric Johnson was, like, the main piece of the deal back then, which is just crazy to think about. But anyway, James Shields went on to post a 0 WAR for the rest of his career with the White Sox and retire. And actually, his last season, he wasn't god-awful, but it was a rough tenure with the White Sox. He went 16-35 with the White Sox, and his final 3 seasons with them, his ERAs were 6.77, 5.23, and 4.58, which is bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not what you want. And then Tatis is a freaking stud for you guys.
Meanwhile, in one season, and only, like, I'm literally in half season because he got hurt and they had to shut him down the rest of the year, he had a 4.1 WAR and was the clear-cut winner for the Rookie of the Year, except for, like, had he stayed healthy and maintained that pace. The guy, like, crushes the ball. He's super fast. He's also, like, an unbelievable highlight reel. Like, he's become the face of the franchise, and he's one of those, like the Soto, Acuna Jr., like, he's, like, gonna be, like, the face of, like, the young players moving forward. So it's, like, definitely an absolutely crazy trade. And the coolest part is he's only, I think, 21 right now, and he's got 4 or 5 more years of, under the Padres' control. And
we'll wait to see. We'll wait to see how the Padres screw this one up.
Yeah,
doesn't seem like they can. Seems like they got a 5-tool player dropped in their lap, but they'll find a way.
They'll find a way. They'll find a way to trade him.
They'll trade him for a
sure.
pile of garbage, probably. Just to keip with the theme.
But
have you had any shit trades happen to you though, Drew?
Yeah,
I know you have. It's the Padres.
Dude, I'm gonna talk about a depressing one, like, especially for my childhood. This one hurt. So Adrian Gonzalez was a stud, lefty, first baseman, just an absolute anchor, Gold Glover at first, always hit above 300 or, like, close to it. The guy matched 30 homers a year every year, and sometimes he was up in 40, like mid 40s. Never roided, super good, down to earth, humble guy. It's like the face of the Padres franchise. Every ad was Adrian Gonzalez and Jake Peavy, but that's a different story. And the Padres are so cheap, and the new ownership is not like that at all. So now we're, like, excited. They just signed Machado for $300 million. Back then, it was awful. They wouldn't pay more than, like, $20 million for any player, no matter how good they were. Adrian Gonzalez was due up to be signed. What did they do? They held on to him for 1 more year, still didn't extend him. Going into this summer of his last year of his contract, I mean, this is a guy you pay. Like, he's showing no signs of slowing down. He's, like, 25, 26. Didn't pay him anything. Decided to trade him to the Red Sox. Who do they get in return? They actually get Anthony Rizzo and 2 other players, so you guys have no idea who they are. Adrian Gonzalez went on to absolutely mash for the Red Sox. And
then LA, too.
The worst part is, he ended up going to the Dodgers and just taking, like, a huge crap on the Padres for the rest of his career, while the Dodgers continue to just grow their dynasty. Meanwhile, what did the Padres do with Anthony? Like, forget the 2 other guys. They didn't pan out. They weren't good. Anthony Rizzo obviously is, like, on, like, maybe, I don't know about a Hall of Fame trajectory, but he's been, like, an outstanding...
Hall of very good.
Yeah, Hall of very good. Outstanding first baseman for several years. MVP candidate some years. All-star almost every year. On the Padres, he hit 141 and 150 at-bats, and they gave up on him. That's it. 22-year-old first baseman. They gave up on him that quick, and they shipped
Third
him.
of a season.
They shipped him off to the Cubs, and I'm trying to see. Oh yeah, so who do we get in return for Anthony Rizzo? You know, future All-Star first baseman. Andrew Kashner and some other scrub. And Andrew Kashner was like supposed to be the next. God, what's a good example of like just power thrower, like
Yeah.
you know,
He had an arm.
He had an arm, and dude never panned out. Always had like a 5 ERA, finished 10-10 on the year. I mean, the Padres had no offense, but literally what happened with Adrian Gonzalez is like perennial face of the franchise, could retire, like outstanding career with us if they just would spend a little money. Turned into just the sloppiest set of trades, most depressing. And it set us back like 10 years until today when we're finally looking like we're on the up again. So.
Speaking of on the up and up again, do your Grizzlies have any trades? that
Yes.
Made? Big ones?
They actually have their biggest one historically is actually with the Lakers, Drew. So
Wow.
it's in 2008. It's the famous Pau Gasol for Marc Gasol trade. And I honestly don't even know how I personally feel about this trade, just because like Marc Gasol is such a cornerstone of the grit and grind era of Memphis. Like he is one of the grind fathers. So like it's not like I can be mad about the trade because it essentially helped create the team that I like fell in love with, because that's when I fell in love, was during the grit and grind. But when you look at the stats and all the pieces used in the trade, well, first of all, you look at the pieces used in the trade and it's garbage, and then Mark and Pau. But so Marc Gasol, 11 seasons at Memphis, he averaged 15.2 points per game during this time. Pau Gasol, 7 seasons at the Lakers, he averaged 17.7 points per game on a higher efficiency. He also helped them get 2 NBA championships and was a 5-time All-Star. And he has career active win shares, 5th highest in the NBA of all time. So he's clearly a contributor, a fantastic player. I think he would have made the Grizzlies better. We would definitely be a different team today, just because we wouldn't have had necessarily the grit and grind era. But a like Mike Conley, Pau Gasol, like I think that would have worked fantastically. I think it would have been a great basketball team still. It's just kind of an interesting trade to think about, because not only are they brothers.
It would have been a very different team.
Oh yeah, it would have made both teams probably very different. I'm
also wondering, does Memphis have the ability to shell out that free agent contract for Pau Gasol when he comes up? I don't know if Memphis's ownership in 2008 or 9 is dropping that $150 million contract that Pau would have got.
It honestly might have been a money issue for Memphis. That might have been why they went through with it, because I really can't figure out why they would get rid of Pau. Like he played there for 8 years and was rookie of the year, their star player. Like he was the heart of the team almost. And then they just trade him for his little brother. Like it just seems so out of left field that I think it might have been a money issue or some other team dynamic that isn't super publicly known. It's just a really interesting trade in my opinion, because it's both good and bad.
I think Memphis sees that as Pau Gasol's, like, we've seen what he can do, but that team tops out at like a second round playoff exit in their opinion. And so then they're like, oh, we might as well rebuild because we don't want to pay this guy a ton of money because we're a small franchise.
The one thing Mark has too is definitely I'd say Mark's the better defender than Pau. Pau's more of an offensive weapon for sure though. So I think maybe Memphis.
Mark's also better looking.
Yeah, you can make that argument.
I always think it's funny that the Lakers were able to shed Kwame Brown in this trade, too.
Oh, the Lakers shed so much trash in this trade.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Kwame Brown, Jarvis Critterton, Aaron McKee.
Dude, you're saying Jarvis Critterton, the guy who was involved with the gun incident with Gilbert Arenas, isn't a quality player?
Like, just a bunch of garbage, and Memphis is like, fine, we'll take out the trash for you.
Yeah, or what would the Lakers have looked like if David Stern never vetoed Chris Paul? I always think about that.
Yeah. There's a lot of what ifs.
Oh no, instead of like 17 titles, we'd have 18 or 19 titles. Oh god.
No. I just think I feel like Kobe's legacy would have a different argument if they got like 1 or 2 more out of like having Chris Paul there.
All right, thanks for tuning in to the first video episode of Full Kit Wankers. Just to Drew and Eric, thanks for doing this with me. Thanks for Eric for suggesting it as an idea. It's one of those things that's really helping me through this time. I just moved and then quarantine time hits and, living by myself and don't have a lot to do. So thanks for doing this with me and giving me some entertainment.
Yeah.
Cohen, that's beautiful. Yeah, I'm going to cry.
No, thanks for helping set up all the video stuff, Cohen.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude,
that's your
this is
area
awesome.
of expertise, so you really helped out. You made it possible for sure.
Yeah,
Thanks.
this is badass, dude.
As always, if you want to send us some more dumb questions to answer, there's no question too dumb for us. We've already answered some pretty atrocious questions, so send your questions to fullkitquestions@gmail.com. Or if you know us, and you probably do because you're watching this, just text it to us, and we'll talk about it on our next show.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, boys. Have a good Saturday.
Yeah, you too.
Peace.